So, let's talk about taxes. I have a tax tool ready for you to download for free from GitHub. I'll show you how to download it and use it in a second. Those of you that are self-employed under a limited company or have your own companies, you know that you need to pay yourself a salary as an individual within that company, as well as a owner of that company, whereby you pay yourself in dividends. Now, paying yourself in salary and dividends is complicated because there are multiple taxes for salaries, and then there are multiple taxes for dividends, and the money or the profits that come before the dividend. There's a lot of tax to pay, and finding the optimal ratio can seem very, very daunting and complicated. But for the year 2021 to 2022, there's this calculator I've got on GitHub. It's very, very useful for those of you that are cheap, because many of you are cheap and don't want to pay an accountant. The best bet is to pay an accountant because he knows about all these little taxes. However, even if you have one, it's good to have this for peace of mind, to see that he is doing a good job. But before we talk about that, we need to understand the scale of the problem. So first things first, there's this man here who wants to help himself to everything in your pocket every time you want to buy some NFTs. And then there's this man here who is a communist and wants you to understand that his granddad was a racist and a sexist, and that you are too stupid to understand as a minority or a woman that this society is pretty fair and equal in terms of opportunity. And, you know, because you're too stupid to understand that, according to him, he will come and save you by giving you free stuff. That's why I don't like communists. Further, there is this right here, the UK tax policy for people who run corporations. Now, before we talk about that, there's additional tax problems that we don't really consider. So before you go to work in the morning, you get up in your taxed house. You go downstairs to eat your taxed breakfast. You then leave your house to get into your taxed car, which is filled with taxed petrol, and you then drive to work, where you earn some money. Now, as I said, this particular video is for people who run their own corporations. And if we take a case study example, let's just say an individual has a turnover of £70,000 and non-personal salary expenses of £5,000. That means they have £65,000 to spend on themselves. Of that, they have to pay themselves a salary, of which they will pay a national insurance tax and an income tax, and a corporate national insurance tax, which comes out of the gross profit of what's left after the salary is paid. And then what's left of that will need to have a corporation tax paid on it. After that, dividends are paid out, upon which you'll pay a dividend tax, and then you get your take home. And the combination of the take home from the salary and the take home from the corporate profits equal out your take home. As I said, there's specific thresholds for this national insurance tax, different ones for income tax. Corporate national insurance is a flat 13.8%. It's rising this year, actually, in 2022 to 2023. Corporation tax is a flat 19%, and then dividend tax has marginals and complexities associated to it. So how do you balance it out? Do you test each number one by one? I say yes, but you don't want to do that by hand. And that's where this Python tool comes in. Now, first things first, download and install Python. You can get that from python.com. Listen, if you have problems with any of this, feel free to email me. I don't have many subscribers right now, so I should be able to get back to you. So python.com is where you can download Python, the latest version, and then go and download Anaconda after you've installed Python. And then you can come to GitHub and install this. So in the link below, there'll be a link to this, UK Ltd Tax Optimizer. You come to code, click that, and you say download zip. Go to the folder. I'll move it to my desktop. You extract all. Now you can't just double click it and open it. You're gonna have to come here to Jupyter Notebook after you've installed Anaconda. If you click Anaconda, Jupyter Notebook will be in here. I just have put a shortcut of it on my start menu. And then you come to your desktop. In my case, it's in OneDrive. Desktop, and then you hit that, and then you can open it. Now I've left the code in like this, believe it or not, to make it as easy as possible. You don't touch the code, you skip past it. If I put the code elsewhere, you would have had to start putting in your location of where you've put the files and all that stuff. You just come down here to turnover and expenses, 50,000, 2,000, then you go to sell, run all. And underneath here, this is your optimal scenario. Don't worry about error check, that's just for, I'll explain what that is later. But this should equal the combination of your take home and the total government theft. So I made a little code later in a later version where I check that this does equal those two and remove all where they don't equal each other. And I'll talk about why that could happen later in this video. It's not wrong, it's just that the taxes would have been calculated wrong in that situation, and you would have overpaid. Anyway, so let's just bring in that £70,000 example. I've done it for 50 there to show you that it works for other numbers. So same example we started with it in the first place. Sell, run all. So your optimal is to pay £9,568 in salary, of which you'll pay 0 in national insurance and 0 in tax. You pay £1,000 in corporate national insurance, about £10,000 in corporate tax, leaving you with a dividend of this much, 43 grand ish. And then you pay a dividend tax of about 3 grand on that, and then your dividend take home will be about £40,000. The total theft is 14,790, and then you'll take home £50,000, which is about 71% of your total income, your total turnover even. So to put that into perspective, let's just see that. You have £65,000 to play with. Apologies. Earlier I said that the error check equals the combination of these two. Well, yeah, it does do that. But if that equal, or that should equal turnover minus expenses, because that's what you have available. So that's what the error check was for. I should stipulate that in case I confuse anyone. Anyway, you have £65,000 to play with. You pay about 9.5 grand in salary. No national insurance to pay, no income tax, leaving you with that total take home. However, you will pay corporate national insurance on that, which is a tax on you, to those that don't know. Corporate national insurance is not your corporation paying in. It's calculated in a way where it seems like it's them, but they have costed that to you. They know they're paying this total amount for you. They don't care about what is taxed and what isn't taxed. It's costed to you, for you, which means that if they weren't forced to pay that, you would get that money. And this corporation tax rise we have in 2022 to 2023, well, you're paying that as an individual. It's not the corporation paying that. They've been forced to pay it this year, but next year, well, pay rises are going to reduce. They were never that high anyway. It's better to move corporations, but we'll talk about that in another video. Anyway, this is of those people who work for companies. So what's left after corporate national insurance? You'll pay a tax. It's about £51,000. You'll pay a tax on that, which is about £10,000, leaving you with about £40,000 net profit. That is what you'll pay yourself as a gross dividend, but you'll pay a £3,000 dividend tax on that, approximately, leaving you with a take home of 45 or 48 grand approx. Combine that with the take home from the salary and you get £50,000. Now, before I tie this off and finish this off, the way this works is it will take each scenario, zero salary, the rest as profit, and calculate all the taxes in between. So with a zero salary, you pay no national insurance, no tax, no corporate national insurance, but you'll pay tons of corporation tax because, if you come here, this will be zero and this will be 65 grand, but then you'll pay the corporation tax, and you know that's 19% of 65 grand, and it will continue. Then we test £1, £2, £3 in salary, all the way up to £65,000, and we calculate the taxes there. Then we take the total, we get the code to find the maximum of this column, which is the total take home. And that is what this row is here. It's literally the highest take home of all of these. And as I mentioned earlier with the error check, in this particular scenario, £65,000 was spent on salary. And the reason why the total between total of the take home and the theft is over what is actually available in the business is because if you pay this entire £65,000 as salary, you'll pay the national insurance and you'll pay the income tax, and then you get your take home. Fine. But you also have to pay the corporate national insurance. And because you haven't calculated that, and you've only taken this home and assumed that you're only paying these, well, you have to raise the £7,000 or £8,000 separately for corporate national insurance, because you have to pay that too, which is why this for these scenarios, this total of the take home and the theft is way over £65,000 and has actually even gone over £70,000, which was the total turnover. So in a future code, I have all of these removed, everything that's above the minus or 70,000 minus 5,000, or everything that's turnover. Everything that's over turnover minus expenses is removed in a future version. But yeah, for now, please go download that. Please like, share, subscribe. Please share this video. And pay as little tax as possible. Rishi loves to help himself to everything in your pocket whenever he wants to spend some money on some nice people somewhere. But we shouldn't have to pay as much as possible. Just remember, by the way, if you did your taxes wrong one day and you overpaid, I don't actually think that they would give it back to you the following year if you told them, listen, I overpaid, I want to recalculate, you know. They would probably say, no, you calculate this way. So, and they know the optimal number, but they don't tell you what it is. They tell you that you have to pay an accountant £400 or whatever. So they're quite sneaky. They could literally do it for you. I'm happy they don't. It adds a little challenge. But just remember that because of that situation, because of the fact that they're not very helpful on this issue, you're not obliged to pay as much as possible as the communists tell us that we must do. You got to use the tax laws to your advantage, because they're provided to provide some kind of law and order, some kind of constraints for people, and people will use those constraints to their advantage. If people want to learn the tax codes and the tax laws, then by all means use them. So there's nothing unethical here. I don't want to pay tax. No one wants to pay tax. I just explained how much tax we pay in this country. You don't just pay tax on your salary. You pay the secret corporate national insurance tax as well, which is a tax on your salary that they don't really tell you about. And you also pay the taxes on every single purchase that you make in this country, which is value added tax, VAT, about 17.5%. And you pay council tax on your house, you pay fuel duty tax on your petrol, you pay car tax or road tax on your car. It's crazy how much tax we pay. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, please do like, share, subscribe, and pay as little tax as possible.